Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. I say 2022 because really there's been too many Texas Chainsaw Massacre remakes, renames, remove the massacre, remove everything. Just call it TCM and that'll be good, right? People will figure it out. Because we've gone into too many name combinations at this point. So, speaking of creativity and the lack thereof in this film, we go on to have this movie, and I immediately look at the runtime, and I'm like, well, this is not going to be a good film. This is an hour and 20-minute film, and I'm like, obviously, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre that's like a slow, methodical film, and you're just kind of turning this around, and instead of it being this kind of film that should be making people technically uncomfortable, you're just kind of turning it into basically just another Friday the 13th kind of film, where when you have our characters being put into this town, we really just have it to where really we quickly have it where Leatherface just kind of turns into Jason. It's pretty much complete. Like, Leatherface is basically Jason now. Because none of the kills in this movie are to be all that creative. It's just how many people can we just mow down? Because we just don't have the time to just have any slow, methodical, like interesting, creative kills. We instead just like, how can we just bash through all these people? And I'm just like, well, that's runtime right there. We have a story that they pull from. Like, the overall like approach of this film feels like a fan-made kind of movie, and that's sad to say. But we also have it where it seems that this story is to be like, oh, we don't like your kind, which is the oldest horror story in the book. We don't like your kind of people. Oh, we don't like you rich kids that are coming in here and stealing all of our buildings, all of our parts of our town. Like, we don't like the out of towners all of a sudden coming in and feeling like they own the place. It's that, like, the oldest story in the book being retold to you within this story. Not only that, but we have these kind of like racist kind of moments also in this film, which is kind of garbage. Why in a 2022 movie do we still have this kind of to this day? I don't get it. I don't get it. So, not only that, we have like a Terminator kind of move going on with this film. We're basically retconning now that anything between the very first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, whichever it was to be titled, nothing between that original film and now this one exists whatsoever in the story of this character. They've basically said anything that happens between Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and the bajillions upon bajillions of remakes and redos and redones and whatever, those are all to just no longer be a thing that matters. Wow, so all the people that put that numerous hard effort to make their film not look like a fan-made thing, and it seems like their movies were actually good, or interesting or fun, when you would go on and you would probably see any number of those things and just be like, well, you know what? This movie may be garbage, but this Leatherface looks really cool. Whereas in this movie, this movie may be garbage, but also their Leatherface looks like it too. There's no win-win here. Uh, so let's just go into winning our way into covering the spoilers of this film so people could know exactly how this film plays out, so that way they may be interested or disinterested further. You can conveniently watch this on Netflix. And so, one thing that I guess I will tee up for this film is we, of course, have supposedly a character come back from the very first film. But guess what? This person was never in the original film. They just wanted to recast this character and bring that character back. And just for the express purposes of making me think, oh, hey, yeah, this girl that plays Sally, yeah, I've seen her in the movie called The Survivalist. I'd rather want to go back and watch The Survivalist besides this film. But hey, it's cool to see that she's getting work. Great for her. It's just you're retconning things and whatever with this film. So that's what I'll say here. Because they bring it up in the very beginning of this film. So let's go out of our way to say it's about that time again to go into this thing called spoilers. Let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time we can spoil this movie. So in the very beginning, all that matters is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Don't watch any of these other things. Don't even watch this thing. Just watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's the only thing that really matters, right? None of the sequels even matter. Because Sally was to survive that very first outing against, of course, Leatherface. And so she is to have been a much older gal who is to go on and come back to, of course, this town that, of course, these people are to be in. So we have a number of these rich kids that I guess their mommies and daddies had went on to buy a huge chunk of this town. Is it Harton? Is Harton? Something like that? It's an hour and 20-minute movie. It's probably going to quickly slip through my mind the more and more that I per second talk about it. So we have these kids, Melody, Lila, Dante, Ruth, Catherine. No. Dante, Lila, Melody, and Ruth, who are all in this car together going to this town. So Catherine joins the team later, let's just say, on the busway there. So, like, this weirdly kind of feels like Critters 2, but if Critters 2 had a way smaller budget, and if the critters were just a chainsaw-wielding man instead, that would kind of feel like what this feels, but a way smaller, minuscule thing. Anyways, so we have these four kids getting pulled over by the sheriff, and it's like, hey, license, registration, blah, 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 blah. So we have, of course, where it seems that these people are to be out of town, but it seems that Melody is to know the catchphrase of this town. She knows the the phrase that pays, I guess, if you want to go with the radio. Because Melody's going on and talking to the sheriff is to mention this one phrase that this guy's to say the other half of, and just like, oh, okay, like, well, like you guys can just go on in and just own whatever is of this town that you think that you own. Hopefully, you have every single deed of everything because that's going to come into a factor here. We also had these four people going and getting a gas at some gas station to go on and find a guy who's trying to profit off the Texas Chainsaw Massacres and has a bunch of like corkscrew chainsaws and has a chainsaw Texas shirt. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, is this like when we have like those Halloween movies, like the Michael Myers Halloween movies, and we have the Scream movies where they're like selling the ghost face and the Michael Myers costumes, so that way they can weirdly make profit off of this while also hoping that at some point Michael Myers is coming back to don his costume once again, or the Ghostface killer is going to have a nice outfit to just slip on at a discounted price, I'm sure. Because it's not Halloween. Whatever. It's just. It's weird to see a movie that's trying to profit off of a killer. I don't see like Ted Bundy having a souvenir shop because that would be freaking weird. Just like this movie. So, anyways, we go on and have these four make it to this town, and so if we don't immediately have it, also when they make it to this gas station, they're meeting some guy named Richard, who is to have a gun on him, and we immediately have Melody that's like, "Oh, this guy is a gun. Like, what is he trying to like? Is he trying to make up for something?" So when Melody goes in this car, we have Richard who's like, "Hey, you like my gun?" And she's like, "Oh, I've seen bigger." And then they drive off. So make it to this town, and so coinkydinkley, the one guy that is to help these four in this car with some building parts of this town to like refurbish this town is the exact same guy that they just ticked off at this gas station and were rude to. What a small world. So we then go on and have Dante, who's like having to just kind of like and Richard's just like, yeah. Hi. How's it going? So we now have these four. They're just kind of going through parts of this land, and they're basically booting people out. But the only people that they can really just boot is Miss Mick, who is still at this house. So we go on and we have Dante, who is talking to Miss Mick, and she's saying, well, I think I have the papers that state that I still own this building. Like I think I still have the papers in here somewhere, like stating that like I still like I've paid money to live here. And Dante's like, no, I don't think you do. So we're gonna boot you out. We're gonna boot you and your big massive son. And so we just have it to where Dante just calls the cops, and so the sheriff is going on and putting both Miss Mick and Leatherface in this truck, and they're driving off. And so all of a sudden, Miss Mick, Leatherface's mother, is starting to get ill, And so Ruth is like, well, I'm going to try to do the right thing, and I'm going to like follow them to just kind of see if everything like goes out all okay. And Dante is just like, okay, we'll just try to fix some things. Because we go on and we have Dante, who is to see on Mrs. Mick's building, we see that she has a Confederate flag. And then we go into for some further discussions and very uncomfortable garbage that we have to kind of just shovel in this movie for some freaking reason. But let's push on past that so we can get to other things. So, because we have it where, of course, Richter? I'm just gonna call him Rich for the rest of the movie. Who cares? So, Richer, let's go with Richard. That'll be fine. Uh, Richard goes on and tries to take this flag, but it just seems like this flag is just never coming down. So we immediately have Richard, who thinks that these people were the possible cause of killing this old lady. And how does he even know that this woman is to be verifiably dead? Doesn't make sense to me. Because what happens is Miss Mick is going on in this truck, and she does croak. She does have a heart attack and die. We have Leatherface that is going on and putting this like oxygen tank upon this woman's face and trying to figuring out how to adjust this thing so this girl could get air, but she's dead. And so we of course go on and have Leatherface, who gets so upset that he goes on and is to grab he's to kind of break some part of this vehicle that is get this part of glass. And so we go on and we have this truck that gets into a car accident because Leatherface is killing this one other guy, and this this deputy shoots the sheriff. The sheriff then gets into a car accident and crashes right in front of this like farm equipment, this kind of this like haymaker or something. It's some kind of farm equipment. I'm not really sure. Again, a lot of specifics within this film because it's an hour and less than 20 minutes. So we have Ruth going on, and she, of course, is saying that this guy is peeling off his own mother's face and slapping it upon his. And so we have the sheriff that's showing some signs of life. So Leatherface is to take the sheriff and make sure he's dead. And so Ruth decides, I'm going to try and like sneak out this window of this one car. It'll probably be a mistake, but I have to do something, right? So all of a sudden, from the door that Ruth was, of course, sitting in front of, Leatherface appears and is to grab her and to pull her down, and is to, of course, eventually kill her and murder her also. Before that, we have Ruth, who's kind of doing this whole like radio thing, telling everybody what's going on. So get ready for Leatherface, because he's coming to a town near you. So Leatherface, of course, makes it back into town, and we have everybody getting this auction ready, I guess, for people to buy out these certain portions of town, because I guess supposedly we have it to where it seems that Dante's family is down every part of this town. Hopefully they have the paperwork for everything. Because we now go on and we have Melody, who just kind of feels uneasy about what had happened. And so Melody is checking the cell phone, realizing that there was a text sent saying the old lady is dead. And so Melody's going on with Dante to want to go into this building to make sure that there isn't a piece of paper or parchment or whatever that exists saying that these people are to still own this building. So they start combing through this building to find out that, yeah, they did have the paperwork stating that they owned the place that they were living. And Melody's heart just sinks because they're like, yeah, we technically killed this woman over nothing. So, well, she's dead, and you're just gonna have a vengeful character coming after you. So this is kind of like Friday the 13th, technically all over again, uh, in a lot of ways. So we also go on and have Sally, that is to realize, like, out of all the times that she could have gone on, and like, gone after Leatherface, she just chooses now, where it seems like there's a cluster of people that all make it into the town that Leatherface is in. She's just taken her sweet bippy of time, Sally, to just finally realize, yeah, I should go after Leatherface now because there's people coming into this town. Wow. Just coincidental, right? Good grief. So, Sally's making her way, and so what she really makes her way to get to is she gets to the spot where the girl is making the radio call. And so Sally is to meet the faceless character, and she's having to run off to try to make it into town quicker. So let's immediately just kind of rush on to where people are starting to get dead, because that seems to be more important to me. So we have Leatherface just kind of making it back into town. And so what ends up happening is Dante ends up getting taken. And he, of course, gets taken through this one room where we have this kind of like swinging door back and forth. And I'm like, Watchmen. The prison bathroom from Watchmen. And I've kind of seen this in other things, I think, like Chucky. So this is really, like, this whole thing that they're doing is not creative. So all of a sudden we end up seeing this guy getting sliced through the mouth. And then we just kind of see him just kind of being, like, horrifically hurt, to where he's just kind of making it out of this this place, oddly, and he is just kind of making out two people, and Richer is just like, oh my god, like, this guy, wow, like, and of course Richer is asked Dante, who did this to you? Like, the guy's being asked questions, and I'm assuming that this guy's jaw is probably broken, right? Like, it looks like it came right from the mouth. How could this guy say a word? God, that is stupid. If there's something that's jaw-related, I'm not going to be asking somebody a question. I'm just going to like, oh, okay, well, you're obviously going to die soon, so it was nice knowing you for the brief time of which that I did. But yeah, speaking of Richer, we have him go and talk with Lila. We end up finding out that she was a part of some school shooting, which I'm like, I don't know how many weirdly 2022 films have a school shooting involved in them, to the point where I'm like, man, that has got to be like, they not only had like viruses or infections or whatever being like the theme of 2022, but now we have to have like shootings for themes for 2022. What the fuck? Like, can you guys just give us a theme that like isn't overly popularly. It's not popular because like they just have to take one thing and saturate it all over every single movie, even if obviously nobody wants it. I don't want to hear about a person that survived a school shooting and now has to be involved in some horror film. I just don't. So we go on and we have now Richard who's talking to Lila, and so Melody's thinking that Lila had just slept with this guy. Hey, did you sleep with him? And Lila's like, no. Like, do you really think that I'm that bad of a person? Melody's like, I don't know. Like, we could probably go on and lose our virgins. You know what I'm saying? We can go on and pop our cherries and freaking die horrifically in a horror movie because it's what happens. So we have, of course, Melody that makes it into the room that Dante was in at some point, and we, of course, have it where uh, Melody goes in there and she is like uh, realizing that she's gonna like hide under this bed. Richard comes in there and he comes in there with a gun. Oh yeah, you're just gonna be in such better class. So Melody goes and hides under this bed, and so she kind of tilts this mirror so Richard can see that Leatherface is behind this door because Richard is coming into this room where Leatherface is in. So Leatherface goes on and is to easily take out Richard, just using this hammer and bashing him over the head so many times that his head caves in. I'm like, I'm just so dull to this. I was like, yay, a hammer being used and chainsaws and woo. So we go on, we have Leatherface just kind of making his rounds, kind of looking around and whatever. So we of course have Richard that's trying to hand Melody off these keys so they can get the heck out of town. So we have Melody that goes on and is like kind of trying to slide from down these stairs. But as Melody is to kind of make it to one part of this staircase, all of a sudden we have Leatherface that goes and takes a hammer and flings it. And now Melody is to crash at the very bottom of these stairs. And now she's like underneath the house. Where all of a sudden we have Leatherface with this like chainsaw just kind of chainsawing through the floors of this house. And Melody's trying to avoid getting sliced and diced. All of a sudden, for her to make it to, at some point, some end of this house, to have Lila trying to rescue her from this end of this house. And so, like, we of course get Melody and Lila to just kind of get out of here. So, both Melody and Lila go and chase off to the bus to just try to get the heck out of here, because that's their main focus. So, I think we have Catherine and we have some boy who I'm sure his name is Boy in this movie, right? Yeah, because heaven forbid you have any other cast members in this movie that are listed. Because why would you? Why would you? So, oh, the one other guy with the sheriff, his name was Deputy. Yeah, that was great. And we just have the sheriff's name, who's just sheriff. Yeah. Man, do I love just the approaches of just a cast list. It's great. Heaven forbid you actually have any number of anything that's really listed in a movie. So, mood point. So the one guy, the one boy, I guess, who is going and trying to just start this engine of this bus, he decides that, hey, I'm going to go outside the bus because I want to get killed and have my head being chopped off. So we just see that Leatherface just kind of chucks this guy's head into the bus. and we have Catherine who realizes like, oh my god, we're all gonna die. She doesn't decide to just close the front doors of this bus because there is no back doors of this bus. What a moron! And why isn't there a back door to this bus? This must be the oldest bus that conveniently doesn't have a back door. So what happens is we just have Leatherface that is just walking further and further into this bus to meet everybody, meet and greet. You know, like he wants to sign some autographs. He wants to go on and see. Oh, hey, you have a chainsaw? Let me autograph that bad boy for you. Oh, hey, you have a Leatherface mask? I'll autograph that. Where do you want me to sign it? Do you want me to sign on the inside or the outside? Because you know what? Sometimes people might want it on the inside, so that way you can still wear the mask. And like, yeah, eventually the ink may weigh off, but like, where do you want the autograph? So that's how much fun that I have to have somehow in this movie. Is just gonna make fun of it. So we start to go on and have all these people with all these cell phones out there, like, hey, we want to record this moment. Hey, yeah, like, let's see what's going on here. Everybody with their phones out, their cellies out, and so I think there was one like comment that I caught was like, hey, like, where is this? Can I come? It was something like that. Could I join? Could I join in whatever this is, which is death? So we have Leatherface that's just chainsawing through people and just slicing and dicing because at this point there's no point in being very descriptive because he's just chalking he's just chucking through people. He's just like, hey, here you go. Here's a little slice for you. Here's a little slice for you. Oh, here's a slice. We go and have Catherine, and I don't understand why this character really has a name in this movie, but I guess it's lucky she does have one. She gets sliced in half while trying to make her way out of this window. And so we have both Melody and we have Lila who get into the bathroom part of this bus. And so we have Lila who makes it to this like ceiling window of this bus and she makes it out. But Melody is caught because we of course finally have Leatherface who's making it through every single part of this bus is now trying to make it through the bathroom door. And so he cuts a little hole for him to kind of see what's going on. So Melody scrambles to get onto the top of this bus, and then both of them are to jump off. Conveniently, shortly thereafter that, we now have it where Sally is to arrive, and we of course have it where Melody and Lila are to be put back into the back of this vehicle, and Sally's saying like, yeah, I have to make my stand, or otherwise he's never gonna go away. I'm like, hold on, Jamie Lee Curtis. Let's have Sally come in here. Sally just so comes off as like a Jamie Lee Curtis wannabe here. No offense to Alwyn here. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, this character just comes off as like, oh, I'm just so Jamie Lee Curtis right now. I'm just so like God, what was that? Laura from Halloween. And like we don't really have her have like all that great of an outing either. Like she just pops shots at this character and it's just like she doesn't really get any like really good hits of this character either. Like we have it to where everything is just rested on the latest installment of Kids. So which I'm like, yeah, like look at Halloween Kills. This like really almost comes off like tweakingly as like Halloween Kills like really a lot. Um, where we have it where it's like, hey, all the new people have to try to like try to get their licks in, but because we just have Jamie Lee Curtis that's still in the hospital throughout the whole entire film. Spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen Halloween Kills yet. It's been out for a while. It's also been conveniently on a bunch of like it's been on some apps for a while also because it's been out since like what October, and it's February, February somewhere in there. It's almost February 20th, roughly almost. So yeah, it's been a while. So spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen that movie. But so we end up really just having it to where Sally, of course, dies, and really, I'm not surprised. You're just wanting to just like, are we just gonna? If we do sequels of this, is everybody just gonna come back from some random Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie to be like, oh no, like hey, like we didn't want to make it just seem like only the first one existed. Like we want to make it so all the other characters get their just dues and desserts and whatever. But like we want to try to make it like uh, Cobra Kai, where we're kind of bringing somebody back from an old film. Because heaven forbid we do anything unique here. Anyways, because it's a requel. It's basically another. It's a requel, basically. Uh, Not a really good requel either. But anyways, so we have Melody and Lila that are still in this vehicle, and so we had Sally that I think chucks them the keys, and so eventually they go and take this vehicle, and they're driving to just get the heck out of here, but they crash the car, and so now, Melody is telling Lila to just get the heck out of here. There's a reason why you survived from before. Because Lila's thinking it's like, well, like she's thinking that this is like Final Destination. Because she survived that shooting, she now has to die here to like, so that way there can be some justice in the world. To say that this person had to die one way or the other. So we like as if this is like escape room where someone had like been the last survivor of something to where they have to go on and re-be the last survivor of something again. So Lila and Melody is to be stuck in this car thinking she's going to die, and so now Lila is technically final girl. So Lila has to go on and face off against Leatherface because Sally is telling Lila, it's like, well, hey, like, you can't just run from this or it's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. So you need to go and take this shotgun and try to face off against Leatherface. So Lila goes into this place where Leatherface is supposedly at, and is to think that she's hearing this chainsaw, so immediately she's thinking Leatherface is in some direction, which she finds out wrong. The chainsaw is just kind of left somewhere idly, going on and on and on, and so now Lila is to try to figure out where Leatherface is, to where they both are to fall into this thing of water, um, and it seems I'm like, doesn't it seem like Leatherface is to be an indestructible character to where I really just don't understand at this point? Um, you would have thought, like, if you're going to take down Leatherface, you would chop him up in itty little bitty pieces. Because in the remake, we have where, like, his hand is, like, chopped off. You would have thought that if they were to beat this character, they would go into more extreme measures of just chopping every single limb off, but we have to build a franchise on this thing that I don't think is going to build any kind of franchise. So, but they have an end credit scene that proves otherwise. They're thinking something's gonna happen here. So when Lila gets out of this water and kind of Leatherface is playing possum, we have it where it seems Lila is going to beat this. She's gonna take down Leatherface. Leatherface just kind of comes after her again. Just but really, Melody is to help Lila kind of face off against this Leatherface. To where like Melody is to kind of get this last thing to help uh, take down this character. And I'm like, oh, so it has to be like instead of like final girl, it has to be final girls because it's sisters. So that makes all the sense in the world for these two to both survive because they're sisters. Oh, that makes sense. So, but there always has to be a final girl. So all of a sudden, we have these two people thinking like, yeah, we did Leatherface, like we took him out. So you know what? We're gonna just go into this car and we're just gonna drive off, and we're just gonna auto pilot from a car, an autopilot our way to our next location, and everything's gonna be great. So they all of a sudden start to drive off, and so Leatherface is to grab Melody and is to chop her head off with his chainsaw, and Lila, who had opened the sunroof, is like, no, as she's just kind of poking her body out of the sunroof because the car is driving itself. So Lila's just like, no, my sister is dead, and now I'm going to have to forcibly drive away from all this and still be haunted by the fact that I didn't go on and like solve this whole Leatherface thing because you can't. We had also Lila who was taking Sally's cowboy hat and putting it on herself. I'm like, oh, passing of the torch. Passing of the torch from a retcon. The other woman was not in this film. There is no passing of no torch. It's just like, oh, I guess we just had to just figure out a way to get rid of the woman from another movie that really wasn't from the other movie. For man, this film, just it is what it is with this film. So Lila's to realize that she's to survive, but get the heck out of here. So the end credit scene is just having Leatherface, who is walking to this other home, which I'm assuming is his actual home, because it didn't kind of make sense to me that Leatherface was in this apartment complex within this town. I'm like, wait a minute, like, this makes no sense that Leatherface is in this location because I know him to kind of be like in seclusion out in the middle of nowhere, out in some barn, not in some like town. Like felt like that was a massive like retcon or weird step thing that they were going on and doing here. Or I feel like maybe Leatherface needed to get a slaughterhouse job, and so he had to kind of commute, or he had to live with his mother, so that way he can go on and do his slaughterhouse job, and then since everything just kind of buckled, we just had it to where Leatherface just decided, well, I'm just gonna go on and just live with my mom until we figure out if we can get some business brewing. Yeah. So with that said, I'm just gonna get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, because I don't even know what rigmarole all the names and all this stuff have to go through. I think when I go on and I'm gonna do the tags of stuff, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Probably I'll probably copy and paste most of the stuff from the other Texas Chainsaw thing that I did at some point, just so that'll be easy, except for the cast list. So, with that said, I'm just gonna get out of here. I really want to find a movie that I like and enjoy and whatever, but that's nothing that's gonna come out recently. It's just not gonna happen. Maybe in like 5 years, somewhere down the road, there's gonna be a movie like wow, but it'll probably be a movie that nobody's heard of, nobody knows about. Uh, like there is a lot of good movies that have come out recently, and there are a lot of ones that people don't know about. Like Shattered was a really good movie that I liked. Nobody probably really heard of that one, but it seems to be like good enough for a lot of people to want to know about it. But anyways, like there's a lot of hidden gems that are actually coming out this year that are actually good films, but like the only like the crappy movies are getting the most popularity. That's a sad thing. The crappy films that are just hanging on the fact that it's like, well, hey, we've had this thing to just like just boost us up to be popular, so we might as well just make a killing right now because like we're just uh, sponging off of previous success of something else. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.